On the show To Tell the Truth, contestants were sworn to tell the truth, but only one of them actually was telling the truth. Watching the show, I was always more interested in the celebrity panelists, Kitty Carlisle, Peggy Cass, and Orson Bean, and what they were telling us about the truth. Peggy Cass seemed permanently dowdy. Orson Bean looked like he would rather be somewhere else, and Kitty Carlisle looked like she had just dropped in from a cocktail party. This week, we'll be experiencing a total eclipse of the sun. It's only an eclipse from our perspective because we're the ones that are going to be in the dark. Some think the cross is the ultimate symbol of love. For many, that's their truth. But from God's perspective, not so much. Welcome. Welcome to Sunday Coffee Hour. I'm Stanley Smith. At Sunday Coffee Hour, we talk about everything and nothing. This week, we talked about making a prayer shawl, man spreading, the total eclipse of the sun, and how there's actually a lot of nature, even here in the city. The readings at Washington National Cathedral were from Acts. God puts us through a harsh punishment, but never hands us over. And from Corinthians, we can put all of our money into a 401k, but that doesn't mean we're going to get into heaven. The gospel was from Mark. Don't hold on to me because I've not yet ascended. At Washington National Cathedral, the sermon was by Randy Hollerith. Randy preached about exiting the tomb of all of our disappointments, sorrows, and concerns. We all have the tombs of lost loved ones, lost jobs, and relationships, all of the hopes and dreams that will never come true. We can exit all of them. We do it all the time anyway, in the name of expediency, economics, and by being either a man or a woman. Being emotionally detached is often mistaken for being pious, and holding on to emotional attachments is often perceived as being spiritual. We probably need to let go of both of these. We can be in the tomb of this world trying to save our spiritual selves. Randy said Easter is an invitation to exit the tomb and experience the resurrection of this life in this lifetime and in the next. At St. James, Lisa preached about the devastating losses that can turn into radiant gladness. Lisa said we should live as if we're going to die because we are. Life can't leverage the threat of death against us for gain because we're going to die anyway. Whoever dies with the most joy wins. There's a difference between being happy not to be dead and the joy of being alive. It's the difference between a spiritual economy and the gross domestic product. We've all experienced loss individually and collectively. Lisa said few of us have processed what happened to us during the pandemic narrative. It was a life-numbing experience, not because we were afraid to die, but because we were taught to be afraid to be alive. We all chose the death narrative because it was very compelling. But we forgot that death has already died to us through faith. We're not baptized into a timid faith that evaporates when the going gets rough. We're not a reflection of our lives. Our lives are a reflection of us. We should love like death has already died because it has. At Trinity Lutheran Church in Rockford, Illinois, Pastor Jay preached about how Christ is it. He said playing tag as a kid, no one wanted to be it. We all ran away to avoid being tagged it. But Christ does the opposite. He stands up and says, "Here I am. I'm it." Trinity is the childhood home church for me and my sister. My sister said probably most of us learn our social graces from church and going to church. Trinity is a good place to learn this. It's unchanged. It's a Williamsburg colonial with white Corinthian columns and Wedgwood blue interior. A greeter at every door, and no one anywhere with a clipboard. Nothing bad ever happens at Trinity. There was no bad psychology being played out anywhere. Perhaps I'm more Georgian colonial than I ever was sham Gothic. Pastor Jay said the cross is the ultimate symbol of love. My sister and I weren't really buying that one completely. The story of Christ is our story, looking back at God. But from God's perspective, our vision of reality is kind of one-dimensional, a one-dimensional story we can barely figure out or interpret. The Lutherans seem to have avoided some of the social justice issues, transgender gobbledygook, that other churches elsewhere seem to have embraced. We hear a lot about social justice and the need for white people to atone for the sin of slavery against Black people, but where's the social justice in that? We could as easily ask Black people to atone to white people for their sin of being slaves. We make up stuff that is morally ambiguous in the name of love, represented by the symbol of a cross, which means someone's got to pay. Only thing worse than that is the church and state, who are so completely immoral that they have become their own definition of morality. We all have our battles to fight. They say the ultimate price to pay is giving our lives. We can risk our lives for Hamas, BLM, or Israel, but how do we know for sure if we're on the right side? Better to think about saving your soul. There is a veil between our intellectual selves and our spiritual selves. Love is not one of these 6 psychological responses, but we think it is. Love is God looking back at us, not the other way around. Yes, we can lose our life for another, but what about our soul? God has taken the precaution on our behalf that we can never lose that. In the US, we have the gross domestic product, and in places like Bhutan, they have the happiness index. When we die, most of us will probably know what's in our 401k account, but our happiness index, not so much. At Easter, no one wants to be it. Christ died, Christ rose, Christ will come again. That's the story most of us are sticking with. But Christ is already here, and that's as it can get. If you would like to join us at Sunday Coffee Hour is every Sunday at 12 noon Central Time on Zoom. I will include my email in the description of this video. I'll be happy to send you an invitation. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.